All right, apologies. I have to be a little bit quiet because it's late at night and I wanted to give my absolute first reactions of this book. I have now finished The Gunslinger and The Drawing of the Three. And this is more and more looking like it is exactly my kind of thing. I will give some non spoiler thoughts as well as a total spoiler section near the end. If you want to hear my non spoiler thoughts, they are this. The things I'm learning about Stephen King as a writer uh, within all the books that I've read so far of his, The Gunslinger, Drawing of the Three, The Stand, and the Eyes of the Dragon, is while in The Stand it was very much about scope, he is so much more interested in the depth of his characters. Now, I don't know if he has a wide variety of characters. I have heard that some people think that a lot of his characters are kind of rehashing of the same sort of, some default kinds of human experiences. I don't know if I would agree with that so far, but I have really, really liked how he has examined and pushed these characters, and specifically Roland. Um, I think this is a fantastic series so far. It, in a way, both of these feel more like episodes of a much larger work, which they are. Um, they aren't they aren't super expansive regarding the plot, but what they do, he's a great storyteller. He knows what he's doing in the sense that when he builds something early on, he knows what the most fitting ending should be for these characters. And I find that he is such a good storyteller um, with each of these books, and and even though they are both very different, they both felt like very fitting final pages of each of these books, if that makes sense. I would rank them both quite highly. I think I would give them both 5 stars. I don't know which one I like more. Uh, in a lot of ways, the Drawing of the Three is more of an exciting read. The characters are probably more interesting. We get more than just Roland, but I liked the individual moments more in The Gunslinger. I liked in general just the pathway that we get. It is very surreal and dusty and odd and confusing, but thematic and meaningful. But what we got in the Drawing of the Three is this beginning of change, which is very thematically kind of at the forefront in this theme, at least for me. We are seeing things that he did in the Gunslinger, meaning Roland. Um, we're seeing the things he did there, where by the end of book two, some of his things that he did in book one wouldn't really fit his personality, or his growth in a way in book two. And I'm just so excited to see where this goes. And that's just going to be the end of my spoiler free section, because I just want to get right into it. So into the spoiler section. Let me just do a quick recap. I have my notes from before of the Gunslinger. We have this pursuit of this man in black, Walter, right? We have the town of Tull, which was odd and strange, and we had this sacrifice sort of thing there. We have Jake Chambers, who we will get to. We'll get to talking. I'm just so obsessed with the whole thing regarding Jake Chambers, because one of the things about Roland is in The Gunslinger, we see him as this hyper orthodox, and that might be the wrong word, but hyper focused, get to the tower at all cost. It's like, this is fate for me to get to the tower. It's been written in stone, even it's like the gods have spoken it, and nothing will stop this. And if there's something, no matter, even if it's somebody that I love, like Jake, and I've taken under my arm as my Isaac, so to speak, even that cannot stop me from getting towards the tower, because that is the purpose of my journey. And that continues on with book 2, but he kind of he takes a step backwards a little bit from that. Now, I love the moments in the gunslinger, especially regarding Jake, and that sacrificial moment, even though it seems now that that might be a little bit, the existence, or the wherever Jake is, like, that might be in question a little bit now, because his Isaac, I'll just keep calling him that because that's what he was set up to be. Roland, he thinks back at the end of Drawing of the Three about that moment, and that he's already damned, because as Eddie, I'm doing this all backwards, so but if you've read the book, so it shouldn't bother you. But starting at the end, Eddie, his brother Harold, who, of all the things that he taught him, said, if you kill the things that you love, you are damned. And that brings Roland back to thinking about Jake, and he's already damned. And what an ending! What an ending! But I'll talk about that. I'll talk about that later. But how interesting! It's caused some kind of paradox, perhaps. Um, I'm not sure. I'm not sure, but I'm so here for it. I think it has a lot of meaning for Roland. Uh, it puts his sort of character in question, and I'm super here for it. Now, it does seem like this whole second book is going to be a continuation of his get to the tower, whatever it ends up being, at all costs. And so we have the Drawing of the Three, we have Eddie, and this prisoner. And he is a prisoner not only to drugs, but to his brother. And he, I like, it's so interesting because halfway through, and I broke off that thought, but I'll get back to it. Halfway through, when I was finally in the Lady of the Shadows, Detta, um, was that her name? I haven't even said it out loud, so it's hard to remember, right? Odetta and Detta. When I was reading her moments in New York, I was thinking, I don't know if I like this as much. Like, I'm still in for the ride, but, like, to be honest, I didn't love the New York stuff, and I didn't love, you know, I didn't love all that. I didn't love all that. Looking back to it from the end, it's like, I'm glad we went through it, and I like the changes, but I didn't like the moment to moment stuff as much as I did in The Gunslinger. But as I started to see what was happening to these characters, as if they were being drawn out of their old life, and he's drawn out from this prisoner life and giving this redemption and meaning, and he's actually able to help Roland, and not always just be, a prisoner to whatever drugs, other people, to be a weak link. I think these are, just to go to the end of this. By the end, I thought these three characters are so strong and so unlikely, and I thought this is the wildest group. This is the wildest fellowship I've ever seen. Like a junkie, a schizophrenic, where the other side is just a maniac, and then this havoc causer. I thought, how are we going to find redemption for this last guy? But anyway, I really like Eddie. I really, really like Eddie. I thought if I'm going to go through this series again, I'd have to read The Gunslinger. And I probably could read the last chapters of. I could probably just read the third arc and on, and go away from Eddie's like drug dealing sort of escapade, whatever. And same goes with the second one, and probably the third one as well. Like, I didn't totally fall for it, but I loved the characters that they built in the end, even though, like, I don't even know, like, maybe I'll feel differently as things go on, because I was ripping through it, because it was very gripping, but mostly I wanted to see these characters back in whatever it is, Midworld or whatever, on their way to the tower. But it makes so much sense, and I like that Eddie has found this slight sort of redemption arc. And the same goes with Odetta, now Susannah, and I like the idea of of you know, she is also subservient to this injury that she's had, and she can't help it. It's like she's got a demon in her when she flips to the other side, when she wakes up as Detta. And now that she's been forced to kind of view what, like, kind of a perspective of what happened to her and why she is that way, I don't know if she's left that behind, that Detta self behind, but it's like she's been born into a new life, just like Eddie has, and they are in this whatever Midworld is supposed to represent as they go towards, it's like a trial phase. I don't know, but it's like they've been dropped into this new opportunity to do something, which I still don't exactly know. But as they have kind of come together, and like Detta's main issue is with white people, because of the things that have, because of her history, and then she has these two white guys, and I also wonder, like, her and Detta, or her and Eddie, they got it on. So, like, is she going to be pregnant? Who knows? Who knows? But I love at the end, like they have to take turns helping her, and she's such a strong character. I wish I would have saved my last video for one more day, and these characters would have been added, because I'm so shocked that they just seem so reprehensible. But by the end, you're like, oh, I really like that they've gotten a little spark of light into their life, and like, maybe they haven't all deserved it all the way, but like, they've both had crappy situations. And in Susannah, I'll call her Susannah, I guess, in her situation, I mean, she got pushed into a train track, and got her legs run over and chopped off, and got a brick fell on her head. Like, what a crap situation. And so when it goes to this third guy, I thought, how the heck is Stephen King going to make me like this character? I mean, I like him as a character because he's interesting and totally insane and terrible. But this is where Roland breaks from his pattern. Like, even he questions, like, what am I going to do with a junkie? What am I going to do with a schizophrenic? What am I going to do with this psycho? And that's when it seems like, no, I'm going to push back. I'm going to push back. And that's where it's different, because he wasn't going to push back with Jake. Like, that was a hard thing for him to do, but ultimately it was like the writing was on the wall for him. Not so with this Jack Mort, who is awful. And through his through his eyes, or through his body, or whatever, he gets the medicine he needs. He gets to he he undoes this paradox with Jake, or he creates this paradox. It's a way of, like, things coming around to help Susannah, and there's just so much to think about. Which is great, which is really, really great. I feel for Roland, because he's clearly now suffering from something that he has done within this midworld. I don't know about his past before this midworld area, if he's even from here or if he kind of got chucked into this as well. Um, Looking forward to, I think people said that's coming up in one of these next books. Really great. Dennis and Thomas showed up from uh, anyway, that might be a spoiler for another book. Eyes of the Dragon. There's a sighting of them, which I was super excited about, even though it's it doesn't really mean anything. They're just kind of named. Really love that. I've really liked this so far. I don't need it to be very expansive, but I've liked the depth that he has put onto these characters, and Roland has been willing to lose fingers, and all these crazy things have happened. I wonder if there's more kind of symbolism that is out there, but it's interesting that now he is the third when I thought it was going to be three people in his path that he has to use in the same way that Jake had to be used. But now he is this third, apparently, which is very, very cool. Now, I want to go to the very ending because I talked about the very end of the Gunslinger. Let me just remind myself since uh do, 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 do. Right, about the horn. So he's going to wait, like I don't know if he's going to have this horn, but at the end of the drawing of the three, I got the same sort of feelings as I did in the Gunslinger, where it just felt very, very meaningful. So after he has talked with Eddie, and like again, Eddie and Susannah seem like very, very compelling, very, very worthwhile people to have around, even though they've had such a messed up other life. It does feel like there's been a spark of something where they are maybe going to reach a new kind of potential that they weren't able to because of some issues, and maybe they're it sure seems like their transformative journey has sparked from here, which I love. The very last segment says this: Eddie eventually slept beside Susannah. The third Roland had the third Roland had drawn to make a new three, but Roland sat awake and listened to voices and in the night while the wind dried the tears on his cheeks. Damnation, salvation, the tower. He would come to the tower, and there he would sing their names. There he would sing their names. There he would sing all their names. Man, I'm going to be tearing up by the end of this last book if things are going the way I think. Like he seems like he feels like he has already damned himself, and yet he will go to the tower to sing their names. The sons, and I might be wrong about that, but we'll see. If that's the ending, like, I mean, it could be a number of ways, but it's got to be something in there. The sun stained the east a dusky rose, and at last Roland no longer the last gunslinger. Sorry, no. Let me read this again. The sun stained the east a dusty rose, and at last Roland, no longer the last gunslinger, but one of the last three, slept and dreamed his angry dreams, through which there ran only the one soothing blue thread. There I will sing all their names. Really great. I don't know where these both land in terms of which I like more. I think I just have to hold them in one and just enjoy them for what they are, as both being, I think, valuable parts of the same series. I don't understand why people don't like Gunslinger as a first novel. I loved it, and I don't understand why people think this is so much better than the Gunslinger. If I had to choose, I'd probably still pick the Gunslinger, maybe. but maybe not. Who knows? We'll see at the end of this. But I really liked what happened with these opening characters, and I couldn't be more happy about it. So we will see where this goes. Comment below what you think of these first two books and whether I should go to Salem's Lot and some other things before I get to the third book, which is called The Wastelands. I do have some other books on my mind. I do want to read The Martian. I want to read The Road. I want to read Slaughterhouse 5. The third rule of time travel should be tomorrow. We'll see. We'll see. But I don't think I'm going to go right into the third book quite yet. I would like to go to something, whether it is some more Stephen King or a couple of these other things. But I'm so thrilled about this. This has all the makings of something that could end up certainly being in my top 2 or 3 series of all time. Maybe. We'll see. We'll see. But I really, really like it, and I find a lot of meaning in it. So, really great. And I'll talk to you guys later.